move this mic around a little bit here. Hopefully I got the audio going. Oh, I did. Okay. See, I'm getting better at this. Well, I assume there's some people watching now. If you watched yesterday, let me walk you through some of the things that we got done. So here is our voxel zombie game. So this is an asset that I pulled down from the Unity asset store a year and a half ago or so, and quickly put our SDK in to do some kind of test for the SDK. Totally forgot about it. And then one of my colleagues at work was like, hey, you remember that voxel zombie game? That was kind of fun. You should revive that thing. Oh, I see the chat room jumping in here. Square Peg, good to see you. Tron, John, some other folks. One of these days I need to figure out how to make the chat bigger so I can actually read it. I can't see how to do that. Anyway, so my first live stream we were talking about, what kind of game can we make, and then it came to me that someone at work was bugging me to get this going. So second video, we tried to get it going, and it exploded. We had to fix that. And then yesterday, we got all the controls put in. So you could use the Tilt 5 wand to control your character. And we also attached the game board, which you can see in here, so that it followed the character around, thanks to ChatGPT. It's Laszlo. Okay. Yeah, I wasn't going to try to pronounce your handle. Thanks for giving me a shortcut. A little tired today. Yeah. Got all excited and stayed up late, so hopefully I can bring some energy. So today, just before I started the stream, I went through and cleaned a few things up in the actual game. So there were a bunch of different things scattered about for the actual player in different areas, and I consolidated those all down into one prefab, and I created a prefab for it. And for those of you that haven't done prefabs before, in the hierarchy menu you can drag things around, get them all under one game object. In this case I made an empty game object, and then I put all the different pieces for the first player on there, and then you just drag it down into your assets and it makes a prefab. And now you can drag these prefabs back in and it brings it back in the same configuration in which you dragged it down into the assets. So it's kind of a nice little shortcut. There's some quirks to it. I haven't quite figured out all of the quirks with prefabs, so I'm sure that's going to be a bit of a challenge for us here as we try to put player 2 and player 3 in, because like certain things probably aren't going to be connected correctly. So before we get going, let me set up the glasses. So we're going to need 2 pairs of Tilt 5 today, and I should go ahead and show you a little trick for setting up the various players. You can actually, in our control panel, assign player 1, player 2, player 3, and define those. And so I have distinctive marks on these different glasses, so I want to grab the same glasses each time. So this is a production pair and this is a pre-production pair. It's an easy way for me to know player 1 versus player 2 as we're debugging. So here is the Tilt 5 control panel, and it looks the same on Android as well. So you can do the same kind of features on Android, and many people don't know you can actually run multiple glasses off Android as well, which is pretty cool. So if you have like a set-top box or something, or a tablet that has multiple USB ports on it, you can run multiplayer, which is fun. Okay, so I plugged in what I want to use for player 1, which is the production glasses that have this logo on the side of it. And the first time you plug in a pair of glasses, you get a serial number, so that's just baked into the glasses. But you can click on the glasses, you can go to actions, you can set a friendly name. So if I say glasses 1 and save that and go back, now I can see that glasses 1, now has a friendly name. And as of today, the way we handle player 1, 2, and 3 is alphabetical. So when I plug in the other pair of glasses, I can just make it glasses 2 or glasses A, B, C, things like that that are alphabetical. Hi, Maine. Good to see you. Yep, this one had never been assigned a friendly name, so I'm going to click on it, go to Actions, Set Friendly Name, and glasses 2. And we go back to the main menu. So now this should be player 1, this should be player 2. There's a lot of discussion around the office right now how we're going to manage this, glasses 1 and 2. There's discussions of doing stuff in the headset. There's discussions of doing stuff in this control panel where you can drag things up and down and set kind of the player order or check boxes, which one's player 1, player 2. Turns out, being the only company out there that really has this local multiplayer functionality, it hasn't been really thought through anywhere else. So we're kind of inventing our own thing now. So it'll be kind of fun. That's player 2. Let me get the wands connected. So to start your wands, you just hit the power button on them. And, oops, that's some other wand. If you have a production wand, it starts off with red and then goes blue. And if you're lucky enough to be like a developer that got, one of our early glasses, you get a funky kind of putrid green color on the wand. No real difference between the wands. Okay, let's make sure I didn't break anything, because I went through the code before we started the stream and started just killing some dead code that was hanging out in our player agent. If you remember from yesterday, each of the player characters has an agent on it, an agent script. And this agent script does a lot of things, like monitors your hit points, whether you're firing, whether you're alive or dead, where you're moving to, things like that. And this project, when I got it from the Unity Asset Store, it was for mobile, so it was touchscreen. It had all this touchscreen stuff in there. So I tried to carve all that stuff out of it. Question, has anyone built a dedicated tablet with ports with a bunch of glasses? There's a company out there, I believe this is all public, Curved Reality, that has a little hip-worn Android device that uses the NVIDIA Tegra, like the super fancy Tegra. And they came by and gave us a demo where they had multiple glasses running off of their device. It's really a powerhouse. It has a really cool feature where you can plug and unplug the battery. It has a little bit of a backup, so you can change batteries out really fast. We've also plugged into various tablets. We plugged into the NVIDIA Shield set-top box. You can run multiple devices off that. I have a Pixel phone. I always run mine off of Pixel phone. So anything that has a USB super speed or USB-C should work. Oh, table. So, chat was asking about table. I need to get some reading glasses. I don't know if anyone's made a table. A lot of people have done some pretty interesting stuff with our system where they made funky shaped boards or made walls and stuff like that. Okay, let's check this out. So I'm going to get player 1, make sure our mixcast and everything is set up. Player 1 glasses, we're going to run this and make sure that player 1 moves around. I can start the game still. And so if you haven't tuned in up to this point, what's kind of fun about this game is I do a raycast down from the wand to a plane that floats just slightly above all the geometry, which I call the floor. And this raycast collides with it and moves a reticle into the position where it collides. And the character spins around and follows that. And when you fire, it fires in the direction. It's actually super intuitive. I like this control scheme. So you just kind of like point at the character you want to blow up. Oh, I hear there's no audio, so I suspect I need to tweak where the audio is going. Now it's coming out my headset. There we go. Yeah, it looks like Mixcast is good. All right, start the game. And so yesterday we set it up when the character moves between the different waypoints. The game board follows. So it's kind of a fun effect. At first I didn't think I would like the game board being in the middle. But then I realized that I could put spawn points and we could have characters coming from all sides, which makes it a little bit more intense, and it's pretty fun that way. All right, this is not looking good for me. I'm gonna let my character die to make sure I didn't break any of that behavior. Okay. Let me try to restart the game, make sure that works. Yep, restart works. So the character, originally when I put this together, I wanted something that was really easy for non-gamers to play. So if you give free movement to the character, that can be a little bit difficult for non-gamers. So I set it up so that there's waypoints, and you just click the joystick side to side to move between the waypoints, and that greatly simplified it for non-gamers. Oh, Hypo says an option for chat in 3 dots on the box, pop out chat. Place the new window where you like it. Yeah, I have it popped out, but the font is so crazy small. It's not bad up here, but it's going to be in the way of... I need to find one of those plugins or figure out how to just put it on the screen so I can monitor it that way. So I'm using a little ROG, little tiny PC. It does have a good graphics card in it. It has an RTX. But the screen is so small and it's like super high res. And I'd have to be like 16 years old to be able to read what's on this screen, because it's probably like a 12-inch screen or something, or smaller. All right, so that's good news. It looks like I didn't break anything trying to clean up stuff. So let's go through various things inside the player, because I think this is going to be important when I try to figure out how to make this multiplayerified. So there's the player character. This has the agent on it, and under the player character is all the pieces of the character. So hip bones and pivot points and the root. Somewhere in here, first thing we're probably going to have to do is, I'm sure it's broken. There's something that rotates the character to the actual pointer, the reticle that's hitting the floor of the scene. So I'm sure that's going to be broken. So we're going to have to chase that down. This pointer position is a game object that has a script that I wrote that is doing the ray casting from the wand down to the floor. And this is attached in the Tilt 5 manager to player 1's wand, tip of the wand, and then it's, if we look at that script again, we looked at it yesterday, it's probably still up. Maybe? Let's go back up to that. Oh, it's called something funny. So this draws the blue line, or creates the blue line, casts a ray down at 45 degrees, registers everything it hits with, and then it loops through everything that it hits it with, and if it hits the floor, then it moves the target pointer, the reticle, into that position, and then this draws the line between it. Let's see what the chat's saying here. Control plus, change the size in the browser window. Let's see if that works. Nope, it doesn't seem to. Let me click in the chat. Oh my God, it works. It works. That's going to make my life so much better. All right, that's awesome. So now I can actually read the chat. Hey, Ian. Okay, so there's that script. And this stuff's all kind of hard-coded. We'll see when I pull in the prefab what happens. All right, let's just save it and let's send it. Let's just bring in, I'm going to drag in the player prefab. Now we've got another one in there. I'm going to relabel it player 2. Now we're going to have to dig into this and see what's going on. Under player, when we were working on the script yesterday, I put for the input. So this is how yesterday we hooked up the input to the agent to move the character around with the joystick. And so since I knew we were going to go in this direction to make it multiplayerified, I pulled in, and I'll show you this. This is kind of nice. I pulled in a public variable tilp5 player index and then called it player index. And then down in the actual update loop where we're reading the joystick tilt to move the character left and right, in the tilp5 function you can choose the right or left controller, or and the player index. You have to set that. So I made it so you can change it from the editor. So now the trigger and the joystick control should be easy to just set within the editor here. So if I drop that down and make it 2. So in theory that character is going to move with player 2's joystick. So let's see what happens. Yeah, it still fires once when it starts up, which is kind of funny. So I've got player 1 glasses on. Okay, player 1 is moving. Oh, player 2 is moving. Okay. So that works. This is a little trick you have to do. Either you have to get some little stands, or you do this. You wear 2 glasses at once. Okay, player player 1 is controlling the point position of all the characters. And the reticle sitting down here. It's not working on player 2, so we got to dig in and figure out why that is. It's kind of cool. There's so much isolation between the two glasses. You only see, the glasses that are in front of your eyes. All right. So something's wrong. Oh, I know why. So for player 2, I talked about this earlier. The point position needs to be hooked to the wand. But now I'm looking at point position in player 2. It doesn't know where the floor is either. So I'm going to drag the floor into the script. And I'm going to go to the Till5 Manager where you can manage all the things like what's hooked up to the wand. So I switched to player 2. And I grab the point position and put it on the end of the wand. Maybe that's all I need to do. Just save it and get back into double mode here. Okay, I have two collisions on the floor from each wand, but it still looks like player 1 wand is moving both characters. So something else is borked. Screen cap that. Yeah, there goes my political career. It gets kind of ridiculous, natively in Unity we support up to 4 players, so sometimes you're trying to stack like 4 when you're by yourself if you don't have any microphone stands. So we 3D print off little microphone stands that you can just set the glasses on, and then you can put them around the table in the 4 different places, and you get these like cheap $10 microphone stands, and you hold the glasses in place. All right. So player 2 is following player 1's reticle. And so the reticle is right here under the prefab. And that was moving around correctly. This is what I was saying, is like there's some quirks to prefabs I haven't quite figured out yet, like how to make sure that everything connects within. So obviously something is going out and grabbing player 1's reticle. So somewhere down in here is something that's grabbing target and moving the character. Yeah, someone in chat says somebody labeled one of them jerry rigs. The jerry rig around the office is they took a bunch of 80/20 extruded aluminum and made this big frame where you could have, I don't remember how many glasses, but you could just like stack a bunch of glasses in there and have them all pointing at once. It's something like 4 in this giant apparatus. And they labeled it jerry rig. I get no respect around the office. None at all. So gun tip. So that must be where it's spawning the bullets. Let's see what's hanging off of gun tip. That's where the flashlight is, which I really like this flashlight effect. It's pretty cool. So it's just a spotlight that's off the tip of the gun. Here, I'm going to do something really quick. So The game board is kind of interfering with what we're looking at. When you go to the game board game object, you can change the transparency. So let's make that a little more transparent so we can see what's going on. You can still kind of see the outline of where the game board is. Okima says they use a styrofoam head, it's cheaper. Yeah, that's cool. Do you just jam it on the end of a mic stand or something, or a tripod? What was I doing? Oh, we were looking for the thing that rotates the gun around. So there's the gun. The light. Weapon. Shoulder. Elbow. I imagine it's something higher up because the whole character is moving. Aimer. So there's a look at script here, but it's disabled, so that's not it. The chest, no. Chest parent. This looks interesting. So there's a look at script that is enabled here. Let's see what this is doing. Update loop. Oh, I think I know what's going on. So it's using find a game object by its name. So we're going to have 2 plus targets in there, and I think that's what it's called. Yep, there it is. There's our reticle. Hi Kurt, how are you? Thank you. I don't think I rock that much. How about I do this? So why don't we just hard code it? If we go public, game object, that should show up in the editor, and we can just set it in the editor, and we can just set it for each prefab. I think. So I'm going to open the prefab, I think, and set it up so when I pull in player 2 and 3, we get this stuff right. Where was it? There it is, chest parent. All right, so now I dragged the reticle in here and hard-coded it instead of just going out and searching the entire project and grabbing anything randomly called plus target. Thanks, Kurt. All right. But I think what's going to happen is it's not going to be updated, I don't think, out here, even though I changed the... Oh! I did. Did it reset everything else I did when I saved? Root parent, root... So if you click on these, you can see which one they're hooked to. So that's within its prefab, which is nice. Go back down here. Okay, that's within its prefab. We got this. It's going to work, guaranteed, she says. All right, get strapped in here. Oh yeah, I saw Dilmer posted a really comprehensive tutorial. I haven't watched it entirely. I skimmed through it, so I like his videos. I refer to them all the time. He did one on using Unity's new networking stack. That was super helpful, getting something going. Yeah, I think some stuff got reset because player 2 is no longer responding to its reticle. I was worried about that. That's got me in the past where I changed something in the prefab and it just pulls a bunch of the defaults back in. So Hypo says, it includes him wearing 2 sets of glasses at once and holding 2 wands, simultaneously developing multiplayer. Yep. Microphone stands for the win. So point position. Still, so that was broken before. Is it in the Till5 manager? That's connected. What did I do wrong? I'm also using beta build 9 or something, which has a bug. If you just let the wand sit on the table for too long and not enough motion, it takes a while to reconnect. I think that's solved in our public release, which is coming up. Let me take a look at which. Oh. It says no wand connected. Well, that would be a problem. One moment, I'm going to go get batteries. So our wand, I've gotten like over a month of pretty continuous use on the wand. But who knows? I've got these old NiCad batteries that, you know, are probably getting a little old and don't hold much of a charge. All right, I've got a wand now. All right. Back in. There we go. Hey, they're both independent now. Let's see if I can play this. Oh, I see a problem. I can't, it's really difficult with the same waypoints for the characters to pass by them. So when I try to pass by, they get hung up on each other. So I think we're going to have to move the waypoints so that they don't collide with each other so much. Well, this is pretty easy when you're controlling both characters, dual wielding the wands. All right, I think I'm going to come back to the waypoints because I think we're going to rethink the waypoints. I had a couple ideas of maybe, and I don't know if it's going to map well to the controller or not, but I was thinking about maybe having circular kind of waypoints where you can go in a circle. So the list of waypoints, let me show you the waypoints for each of the players. So here's a bunch of empty game objects that are the waypoints for each character. And since they're on the same, it's just a copy, all the waypoints are on top of each other. And then inside the character controller, the agent, I think. No, where is it? Somewhere. Where are the waypoints defined? Hey, So Cool Dad, great to see you. Oh, Stratos is from Japan. That's cool. I was just over there about a month ago, a month and a half ago. It looks like I'll be going back in about a week and a half. So, of course, I'm going to hit all of the retro video game shops and try to get more cool gizmos. Actually, let me show you something that I just acquired on the cheap. I got really lucky on eBay. TI 99.4. So this is the second one I got, but I was able to snipe this one, get it pretty cheap. These are fairly rare. Now, this one's pretty scratched up, so it's a little disappointing it's scratched up. But I'm trying to make the ultimate TI 99.4, not the 4A, 4 system. So on the 99.4, they had these ridiculous sidecars, and you can make a system that's probably 2 meters long by connecting them all together. And so far I've found, well, I've got the speech synthesis, the memory expander, the RS-232 adapter, the printer that, hey Bob Darlington, I am a nerd, and the printer that hooks up to RS-232. And the big score that I got recently is I found the super rare Magnavox TV that they converted into a monitor, which when you look it up online, there's very few pictures of it. It was quite a challenge to get the person to actually ship it to me because they didn't want to ship it. It was pickup only in Chicago. Hypo says TI pioneered the Sega Super Stack, which is true. At the office, I've got the Sega stack going with the CD player, the 32X, the Sonic and Knuckles, Sonic on top. Right next to it, I've got the Sega Master System attachment on top. I need to dig out my Game Genie so I can have the complete vertical stack. Also have at the office, I have going the long computer collection, which is all of these British computers that were super long. Carrie's talking about Usagi Electric's complete collection of sidecars, which is pretty ridiculous. But he doesn't have the original monitor, so I have him one-upped. Usagi was out at our office recently, which is really fun. Anyway, back to the game. Let's see. I forgot what was going on because I got distracted with showing off my nerd collection. Oh, yeah, that's right. We got it working. Waypoints are in the way. Yeah, so here's all the waypoints. I want to find where the waypoints are pulled in and used. I saw it recently. There was like a whole list of all the waypoints. Anyway, so I'm thinking about, instead of just doing a linear list that goes to the end and stops and then you can come back and have your character move side to side, and I want to make the loop, the list loop on itself potentially, and then maybe you could have in the center of the play surface, the character can kind of run in a circular motion. The only worry I have is that the controls are going to maybe feel a little funny when you kind of come across the front because you'll be clicking to the right, but the joystick naturally you'll want to click to the left, so I may have to add a little logic so once you hit a certain waypoint you have to start clicking the opposite direction. Could be problematic. Let's see. I wonder if it's down on one of these things. So there's a rigid body. Oh, here's something I can potentially do. Oops. I'm drop testing all the glasses. Trying to do this on my dining room table with everything balancing on a chair. So the chat room's asking, how tall can the holograms be in this hardware? Any limit? Yeah, it's based on the board. We have a big board, and then we have a smaller board, which I'm using the smaller board today. So from kind of these are pretty low chairs from my perspective. When I look down into the scene, I can see objects that are like that tall. Everyone is confused about like kind of the limitations of the system. They think because the image drops off the end, you can't see anything tall on the system, and that's not true at all. It's like your television, right? Things drop off the edge all the time, but you still see, what's happening in the middle. Okay, I was going to check and see if I can figure out roughly where the movement is coming from. So the character is moving side to side, so the character top here is moving. Player is not moving. Is the zombie growling too annoying? Should I turn the audio down? So these are all disabled. They're just using it for a transform position for the waypoint. So somewhere in here is a script that is moving the character. I swear I saw this yesterday. Well, I may have to just move on from this and then chase it down a little bit later if I can't figure it out. It's got to be under this prefab, I would imagine. Oh, just I spoke at the wrong moment. Okay, we got something interesting going on here. So outside of the prefab for each of the players, I got this thing on level setting. Oh, now this is annoying. So here's the list, player move positions, and it's got 6 elements, so these are all the waypoints here. So we have to dig in here and figure out how public class, level settings, creating a public list. Oh, yucky. I kind of hate this. Event on start. So I think the agent is, the player agent is probably coming out and grabbing this list. Yucky. So we may want to try to merge this into each player, because it might be useful to have players being able to move to different offsets from each other instead of going to exactly the same positions. I'm gonna nuke some of these things. Level setting. Oh, my stomach is growling. Up, here it is. So game is finding instance of level setting, player move position, destination index position. So I might want to try to merge this into the agent itself, all of that logic. This is the kind of thing that frustrates me. I know how powerful it is to have a bunch of global things, but out there that you can reference, and how clean it can make things. But I ran into this in doing chip design as well. If you don't understand what exactly you're going to do in the future, you can just back yourself into a corner and make things really difficult. And in chip design, when I started doing chip design, we use these high-level languages for defining things like VHDL. It was very strict on what you could do, and it was very carefully defining what the hardware was. And now they have things that are really abstracted away. You can do stuff really fast, but if you want to make any like major architectural changes, then it just becomes a nightmare. All right, how many references to level setting do we have in here? So this agent script is what does all the moving between the waypoints. Okay. Okay, on awake, it goes out and finds this. I wonder if I can do something kind of cheesy with this. Instead of going and finding level setting, I can just make a copy of level setting for each character and make it public. I'm going to try that first. It might be the safest. What's it called? Level setting. Oh, wait, it was already public? Up here? Oh. Oh. If null, go find it. Oh, maybe someone did think ahead. So you can hard code this. Let's just try that. Carrie's going to go off and do some ThinkPad tinkering. Speed running game design, didn't see that coming. There's no speed running with me doing this stuff. I'm really, really bad at this stuff. Oh, it's outside of behavior. So I can't see it here. It's under game, and I don't know how to make that public. Oh, it's hide in inspector. No. Show me that in the inspector. Hello, where are you? Johnny Speed, talking about using Fiverr to do some of this stuff. I've been using a lot of ChatGPT. Yesterday we made a board follow script that it nailed it first shot. Exactly what I wanted. It was pretty cool. Kind of questionable whether I could have typed the entire script out in the time it took me to define it, though. I'm glad you like to see me work and Nemeo. Um, it would probably be more thrilling if I was actually doing hardware, which I'm good at, or decent at least. Oh, wait. What am I doing in game? Chat room, why didn't you tell me? Somehow I ended off in a different script. I don't know where game exists. How do I set this not entire solution? I hate when it does that. It jumps off to a different script. So it just wasted a bunch of our time. So what I want to try to do is, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to make a public level setting. Call it level setting. And I think I want to copy all this because I'm not feeling confident. I'm not going to totally bust everything. Hey, Zenro, I can't say your name. I'm glad you watched my videos for so many years. It's been a long time since I've done any videos. I don't know what possessed me to set up a live YouTube stream. I forgot what I was doing. Did that. And then I really, really, really like building for the TIL 5 system. It's just really fun to build for it. It's such a unique canvas. I never thought that I would get into doing so much like coding and programming. So I think, let's see how bad this is. Okay. It's not complaining. So I think what I'm going to be able to do is copy level settings, put it under each of the prefabs, and then instead of referencing this other level settings in the scene. Oh, cool! You're building a game. You should. Can you say what it's all about? Oh, thanks, Electrosis. I'll try to remember Control plus click. Did you all hear that Maker Faire is coming back? It's kind of weird, or at least here in the Bay Area, it's kind of weird. It's spread across 2 weekends. I don't know what to think of that. Part of me makes me not want to go to either, and then I'm deciding like, well, should I go to one and not the other, or should I go to both? You know, I had a love-hate relationship with Maker Faire. The first time I went to Maker Faire eons ago, probably 15 years ago, it was, I think, Maker Faire 2, maybe, or 1, I'm not sure. I didn't find it all that compelling because there weren't like a lot of extreme makers there yet, that I ran into at least. And then like 2 or 3 years into it, you started to see the Ben Krasnow's coming out, liquefying oxygen, a lot of really cool things. And then it became so corporate towards the end and big. I felt that it was really diluted down. You know, it was hard to like find kind of the hardcore makers out there. I understand why they had to go like super corporate because, you know, they had to pay for that big venue they were renting out. FGC says the game is about playing blackjack but making trick shots to get desired card values instead of drawing a card. Can we talk you into bringing it to Tilt 5? Use the wand to do your trick shots. Oh, Bob Darlington says Maker Faire after, DEF CON after 1999. Yeah, I went to DEF CON when it was still at Alexis Park the first time. And then they immediately moved over to a casino. And I thought after they moved to one of the bigger casinos, it wasn't too bad. And then I just kind of quit going. So maybe that's just an indicator of what I felt about it. Oh, you're asking where you can learn about Tilt 5. If you go to tilt5.com, you can, look at all of the different options there, gameplay, playing games on it, making things on it, non-gaming. There's a bunch of free applications like CAD Viewer, Medical Image Viewer, stuff like that, satellite stuff. Experimental games, we have a thing called the Lab, where kind of like you can submit something if you make something experimental, and as long as it basically runs and is not offensive, we'll put it up there and share it. And then we have third-party games, which are fully legit games. And then there's some games that we've created, like Takanoko, that are up there. Takanoko is pretty cool. We've been playing a lot of that because you can play remote and local. It's a cool board game. Then there's Figment XR, which is really cool, where it's an art tool plus a bunch of other stuff. It's both local and remote, so you can log people in together. Ian asks if Ben, I'm assuming Ben Krasnow is in the Bay Area. Yes, he is. When I worked at Valve Software, I recruited him into Valve Software, which is in Bellevue, Washington, and he flew in, each week. So he was doing a lot of flying to come up there to work with us. It was pretty great working with him. Okay, I think this will work, TM. Okay, so now we're at the agent script on the character. There's level setting. And I should be able to drag this over. Where was level setting? I forget. Level setting. Is it under here? Yeah. I'm going to have to do a little bit of work to get level setting. All right, let's drop those onto both prefabs because I don't want to have a null and crash everything. I probably should be putting null checking in, but I'm always lazy. Level settings. It's kind of cool. You can grab the game object and it'll find the script attached to it. Ian's talking about offensive, and I'm building a kill all the zombies game. Yeah, maybe it is a little bit offensive. Who knows? Oh, I don't necessarily need to wear the glasses for this. We'll just see if the characters are moving between the... Oh, look at that. It's like I'm a pro. Totally knew what I was doing the whole time. Let's try player 2. Yep. Okay. Now we get to do some fun stuff. let's move all of the waypoints. Let's duplicate this level setting script under the character. Do I want to do that? Yeah, I probably do. Johnny Speed says, reminds me of Robot Wars when they went RW #1. When Mark Thorpe brought it together at Treasure Island, it changed so much. I never got into Robot Wars. I went to some of the events afterwards where, oh, what's his name? David Conklin or something like that. Was running the ones at Maker Faire and other events. Those were pretty fun because they were kind of small and intimate, but probably never profitable enough to keep going. I watched a couple of the television shows where they were just overproduced and kind of annoyed me. Oh, my stomach is going. I don't know if you hear that, but I probably should have ate lunch before starting this. It might limit the number of how much time I'm going to put into this, unless you want to watch me stuffing a sandwich in my face. Yes, I did meet Grant Imahara, Johnny Speed. There's some photos of us together out there. He was a great guy. Kind of sad to see him, suddenly pass away. I'm going to do this. It's probably a bad idea because it's going to, well, I'm not going to put on the prefab. I don't want to reset everything. See, I didn't architect it well enough in advance, and now I'm scared to make changes to the prefab because it might reset everything. I'm going to create an empty. Put that under player 1. And what was that called again? Level setting. And I think I want, no, I'm going to get rid of this. I don't like that. I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to put level setting under here. So I'm going to add the level setting script here. And there were 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 waypoints. Now the weird thing, I noticed these were all out of order down here in the other level setting. Oh my goodness. So it goes 2, 1, 5, 3, 4, 6. I'm never going to remember that. So waypoint 2, 1, 5, is it? 2, 1, 5, 3, 4, 6. Three, 4, 6, and I guess that other waypoint's not used right now. Oop, gone. Okay. Now we go back to our character agent, and I'm going to pull in player move position, which sounds like a better name for all this. It's kind of all condensed together. Hi, Roger. Hi from Holland, he says. Is it late there? Early there? same thing here. And I already forgot the order. 215, 346. Two, one, 5, 3. Ever since I was young, I had a terrible memory, so I can't even blame it on my age. 6. Johnny Speed, yeah. The stream is, I don't know, maybe it will inspire folks to, build some stuff for Tilt 5 that have never really programmed before. I found that it's not that difficult. I probably off and on for the last couple of years kind of played around in Unity, and I came up to speed pretty quick. So this original project was something I put together kind of at the beginning when I started learning Unity. The cool thing about the Tilt 5 SDK is that it's mostly drag and drop to get things rendering, and then to hook up controls is pretty straightforward. So you can just hunt around for, other input that the original project had, and then just change it to the Tilt 5 variant of it. We also support the input system too, which I have yet to figure out how to use the input system. So I still just code it manually with like tilt5.input.get button, yada, yada, yada. All right, totally gonna work. My new architecture here. Boom, one bullet. All right, player 2 works. Player 1 works. Nice. My players are still getting stuck on each other. Hi, Evo Cupra. Johnny Speed said this is how he approached scripting Second Life in the early days. Yeah, it's funny. Some people, around the office, they're pretty hardcore programmers. They're like, C#. I'm like, I don't know. It kind of looks like C. Kind of works like C. But then again, like prior to doing all this stuff, I was working, on stuff at Valve Software, and we were using Lua, and I was in there hacking away doing all kinds of really fun stuff just in Lua, because the programmers would just expose an interface to me in this, in that scripting language. I think the thing that annoys me the most about, C# inside of Unity is there's just a lot of hazards. Like things will work, and then you kind of goof up and you don't do enough null checking, you'll get a null, and then the whole script will stop. Yeah, not another dev says, yeah, C#'s okay. Electrosys says, C#'s kind of like Java. Never really done much in C#. I was just doing CircuitPython the other day, and I'm going to avoid it like the plague. I was using a Raspberry Pi Nano to do a keyboard decoder for my Tandy 1000 conversion to a modern PC. So I was scanning the keyboard and doing USB. I'm like, oh, there's some sample projects out here. I'll go ahead and use a sample project. And everything seemed to be working fine until I hit the numlock key. and there was a syntax error, and it just stops working. It took me forever to figure out what was going on, just no visibility into what was happening. It was frustrating. So next time I do a keyboard decoder, I'm just going to do it in C or C++. So at least it like might kick out an error. Eric Edge says he worked in C# for years until moving to management. Now programs in HyperCard for the fun of it. I don't know what HyperCard is. Not Another Dev asks if I've done any FPGA stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done a lot of FPGA stuff. Back in 2001, I think it was, I made a reconfigurable computer. We only sold a couple hundred of them, but it was, you could do emulation on it. It had 2 FPGAs, and I emulated the Commodore 64 in it. It loaded everything off of a flash card. So I had a little CPLD that was, I think it was maybe 64 macro cells or 128 macro cells. This was really a brain fuck trying to figure out. It talked IDE to a compact flash. It was smart enough to find, the FAT32 file system and find the binary file to squirt the bits into the 2 FPGAs. It was pretty crazy that I did it that way. But it was what I knew. Never do that again. And then that led to a ton of things in my career, doing tons of FPGAs, chip design, doing FPGA emulators for various toy projects. So Ian Grant says, wait, so CircuitPython can fail with a syntax error after it's been loaded up onto the board? That's wild. Yeah, apparently. It's not compiled, so as far as I know. So it just happily will run through various loops and pieces of code until it hits a syntax error and then just wedges up, which is annoying, not what I expected. So what is HyperCard? Is this a Macintosh thing? I'm not a Mac user, so I don't know. Okay, back on track. Let's get on track here. What I'm going to do, I think what I'm going to do, I think I can move the transform position of this whole thing right here, and it'll shift the player waypoints down away a little bit, so maybe we won't collide with each other. Be a quick little hack to maybe get us up and going. We'll come revisit this a little bit later. Ah, yeah, that worked. Because all those waypoints are a child of the player move position game object. I was just able to pull it back, and now they're relative to that. And so the characters are moving past each other nicely. I guess it's kind of nice the players aren't clipping through each other. Oh, Evil Cupra was talking about an FPGA project that I was working on to emulate the Amiga. So in 2004, I got hired to do the ASIC for the Commodore 64 DTV. It was a joystick that you plug into your television and played all your favorite old Commodore games. And we did a custom chip for that, and we did all the emulation for the programmers so they could get working way in advance of the chip being made on an FPGA board that I designed. And then we did another version of that was available worldwide, so it added some features to it, including a blitter and a simple copper type coprocessor in there, and some other stuff, and PAL and Japan NTSC formats and stuff like that. And then we started shipping that worldwide. We added those extra features to the chip because we had another project coming right after it. So the toy company had hired or had licensed out the Hummer name to make a Hummer racing game, and then the team went off, the programmers went off to program this Hummer game, which didn't turn out great, but it was an inexpensive toy. And they used all of these advanced features we put in there, like the blitter and higher color depth and things like that. And then immediately they kicked off a project to do an Amiga joystick. And then everything just went off the rails. There was a lot of drama between all the parties involved. There was the toy manufacturer, there was the company that commissioned the original Commodore toys, and some company in England. And I don't know all the details, but it just went all off the rails. Like, people weren't getting paid, I didn't get paid. And I was partway through emulating the Commodore Amiga, and I had most of the custom chips done. I had Denise, I had Agnes, most of Paula. We were skipping a bunch of things like the disk interface on it because we were going to load directly into memory from some extra logic that was hanging off to the side. And then I was just starting to work on emulating the 68K processor, and the plug got pulled. So, in my garage I've got like this Amiga that has all these FPGA boards like hanging off of it in each of the positions for the custom chips, which was kind of cool. The Amiga was actually a lot easier to emulate than the C64 because it wasn't as reliant on the quirks of the custom chips. So the C64, a lot of these games that we tried to run on it didn't run because we didn't have the illegal opcodes quite right, and little quirks of timing in the video chip. And so a lot of work went into doing illegal opcodes correctly and then figuring out all these little quirks. These days, it's pretty amazing. Back in those days, we had to fit it onto a little $2 ASIC, so we had no space. So when I did the 6502, I actually had to set up a real instruction decode, so it'd be the smallest possible, and then a real ALU hooked up to instruction decode and all the prefetch stuff, and there wasn't much room to just brute force it. Now I look at some of these emulation projects out there emulating entire processors, and they're doing it like as a giant case statement. Like, they just blat everything into one big file for every instruction, and just with very little thought of how the data flow actually happened in the original chip. And just, who cares how big it is, because FPGAs are really big and fast these days. All right, so now we're not colliding with each other. Now I'm going to hook up another game board. So right now the game board is only following player 1. So let's darken up that game board so we can look at it, and so I can just demonstrate what's happening. So yesterday I'm on the game board right here. We used ChatGPT to make this follow script that lerps the game board object towards the player. And so with the TIL5 system, everything is relative to the game board. So if you move the game board through the scene, it's as if you're dragging the player through the scene. And so if I start this up, move player 1 around. So you can see as the player moves, it's dragging the game board with it, with just a little bit of dampening, so it's not very harsh. For those of you that you don't know what lerping is, it's just a function in Unity where you can kind of set up a smooth transition towards a transform position in the world. So when the player moves somewhere, the game board kind of gradually moves towards it. If you don't do that, it can be a little jarring. We also put some constraints so that the board doesn't go up and down with the player, because you can see the player is kind of hopping up and down. That'd be pretty jarring. So we constrained Y. We may not want to do that forever because we may want to have future levels in this where the player can actually traverse like ramps and stuff. In that case, we may have to have some different dampening for vertical versus horizontal. We may have to have two lerp functions in there, one that's highly damped so your player can go up to an elevated level. Hey Intech, good to see you. All right, so in Tilt 5, since everything is game board centric, you can duplicate the game board and make a new one. So I'm going to make a new one and call this game board player 2. So here is our follow script, and it's still set to follow player 1, but we're going to make player 2's game board follow. Oops, what? I'm a little confused. Oh, it's following character, so I need to pull character over to object to follow. Now in theory, Corey says Command and Conquer. I 1000% agree. Command and Conquer needs to be on this, or something that's very like it. You know, maybe as we grow as a company and, you know, as more people have headsets, we can go license it. Because I don't think Westwood Studios is really a going concern anymore. See you, Bob. Thanks for stopping by. All right, I see it moving around, but I don't quite understand why I don't see the game board in the scene. Maybe it's because, so in the game board manager, in the Tilt 5 manager, we can go to game board. So for player 2, it's still assigned to the first game board that started off in the scene. So we can break that connection, I think. So now I've assigned player 2 game board to player 2. Oh, I don't know how to say your name, but great to see you from the Netherlands. Okay, we might have two game boards present. I think maybe the gizmo or the visualization of the game board doesn't show up until it's actually connected to the Tilt 5 manager. So let's see if that's true. Yes, it is true. I can already see it in there. So now we can have, you know, two players with independent views. So this is really cool. And you see how the UI is shared between, or the UI is attached to each player. We're going to have to address that. Because what's going to happen, actually, let me demonstrate in Mixcast. Each player has visibility of each other's UI, which is not going to be good. I'm going to switch to a bigger. So on the Mixcast, you can see player 1 and player 2 UI, you know, moving around in here. But we've added features in the SDK that allow you to deal with that. So why don't we go and start dealing with that? And I've only done this like 2 or 3 times, so bear with me. I'm probably going to screw it up a couple times. Johnny Speed asks if they're round Tilt 5 mats. I wish there were. There's a lot of options we can do with game board mats. In fact, we're coming out with a rolling mat, which is cool. So you just roll it out. We've been testing it at the office, which is pretty awesome. The team wants to make some tools that allow game developers to make their own custom maps. I think something that's more like hexagon shape might be kind of cool too. So you could have like, UI and stuff line up along those edges. It's kind of nice to have a straight edge to kind of align things and align the user to it. All right, so what we're going to do is in Unity there's this concept of layers. So we're going to go to the first game board, and the UI is attached to it. So you want your UI to follow you as you run around. So we're going to go to the UI canvas. So this canvas is where all the UI lives, and when you use a canvas in Tilt 5, you use it in world space, so it's actually in the world, versus screen space where it's trying to composite on the screen. That doesn't work well. It ends up like stuck in one eye, and it's not locked to the table. It's really a bad experience. So this is a world space UI that's a child of the game board. So wherever the game board goes, the UI goes. So we can go in here under its layer. It's set on a UI layer now, but we're going to add a layer. Let's call it Player 1 UI. While we're in here, we're going to make a Player 2 UI, Player 3 UI, and a Player 4 UI. Oh, my typing's bad. Now there's a downside to doing this. Unity gives you 32 layers because it's a bit mask. And so sometimes you can run out of different layers, which can be unfortunate. Okay, I made some layers. So we are on Player 1's game board. So we're going to go Player 1 UI. I think it's right to change all the children. That makes sense, so that all the sub-objects are only visible to the Player 1. And then let's go to Player 2 game board. I'm going to move this around. Oh, no. And never mind, I'm not going to move it. And go to Player 2 and set its UI to Player 2 layer. Johnny Speed says, I have to say replacing physical miniatures with animated virtual miniatures is exciting but bittersweet. Getting model renders from Hero Forge and its animates them woot. It's kind of cool. You can blend both. So we did a D&D one-shot where all the players were going through this cave scene, and all the traps and cool special effects like toxic smoke and stuff were all animated, but we used real dice, and now we expose the camera, so it's still, there's potential to detect things like dice rolls and where physical objects are. But the grand finale of the one-shot was at the end, a big dragon came in, but it was actually a physical object that the DM put down on the table. And then the players had to go up and attack it and do their sword actions and whatnot. It looked really cool, so you can blend the two. All right, where was I? So we have the UI on its own layers now. And if we go to Tilt 5 Manager, let's go to Player 1. So now we have a culling mask. So we're under game board culling mask. And we can go in here and we can remove player 2, player 3, and player 4. And under player 2, what? Oh, I'm under spectating. Sorry, there's a global spectator setting. So let's set that up. We are spectating player 1. So we're going to set up player 1 to see their UI, which makes sense. Is it under glasses for the culling mask? Yes. Okay. So I broke the connection. I'm on player 2. I broke the connection to player 1. So that's what these mean down here. So we're going to do some independent stuff. But let's go set up 1. All right. I'm doing it right this time. Totally going to work. Guaranteed. Haha. So I disconnected all the other players' UI from this culling mask. Now I'm going to go to player 2. I don't want to see player 1. I want to see player 2. I don't want to see player 3. I don't want to see player 4. Knock on wood. All right. Yep. So, from my understanding, Mixcast, which is doing this compositing out here, inherits the camera settings from player 1, or whatever spectator. So if we go back here, you can define which player is being spectated. Player 1, 2, 3. This is kind of cool. The other day we did Marble Maker. I have the wand sitting on the chair here. It keeps bumping the trigger. So on the Marble Maker project that I was doing, where you could have 4 players playing simultaneously, building your own marble tracks with smashers and hammers and stuff like that. It used to be just hard-coded, so it always followed player 1, which wasn't very exciting when you're live streaming. So I added a little piece of code in there, so on the keyboard you could hit the 1 button, 2 button, 3, 4 button, whatever, and it would change which player was being spectated. So that was pretty fun, because as you were racing through the marble maze, all 4 of you, whoever was in the lead or wherever, you could go and check in on how people were progressing. Let's see. Johnny Speed. Whoopsie. Accidentally docked chat. I gotta fix that. So Johnny Speed says, I remember John Carmack was super into making 3D Minecraft that popped out of your coffee table using VR or AR. Till 5 looks completely ready for that. Is height rendering distance limited? No. We actually we render the entire volume in front of you. In fact, we have a game board that tips up as well, so you can see off into infinity. Something like Minecraft would be amazing. Again, you get this like big volume, like kind of even on a coffee table like this, you get that much volume to work with, and then infinite into the table. I encourage anyone making games to make stuff stick out of the table. I just like it better sticking out of the table personally. You know, sometimes people like push it way into the table, and you know, means you're having to peer over the table, which is nice for some game experiences. But in general, I kind of like to just sit normal and just see it out in front of me. Okay, let's take a look at this. And I'm going to look through the glasses and make sure that each glasses is working correctly. The UI is in the right place. Yep. Perfect. And yep. Oh, let's see what else we want to do today. I mean, that's probably a pretty good stopping point. Do I want to take on a loading screen? Actually, let me do a little quick test to see if I want to make sure that if a player is disabled, because we're going to need to make a loading screen for this, so you're in the start of the game and it's going to be waiting for people to pull their trigger to join the game. And I think what I want to do, and I'm probably going to have to get ChatGPT to help me do this, is have the loading screen where you select your character or whatnot, and then you leave that screen, you use the scene manager to go to the actual scene, and I need to pass a variable over of how many active players there are. Okay, so what I'm going to do is make sure that everything behaves if a player is disabled, and then we turn it on at a later point. So player 2 is disabled right now. I'm going to turn down the opacity on some of this game board stuff. When you get 4 game boards stacked on top of each other, it can be really difficult to see what's going on. So there's player 1. All right, he's working. And then I'm going to go over to the hierarchy, turn on oh, that's good. Okay. So let me think about how I want to do this. I've done this a few times. I can never remember how to, I think it's called serializable. You can take stuff from one scene and move to the other. All right. This will be good. So if there's some new people watching, I can show how to set up a new scene. That one's just junk. Okay, call this intro. We'll load that one. So to set up a Tilt 5 scene, first thing you do is you don't need the original camera in the scene, because we're going to have a preview camera, we're going to have all the cameras for Mixcast and for oh weird, we had a we had an error in that other scene. We'll have to deal with that when we go back to it at some point. Sam says, is it possible to use Blender instead of Unity? One of our customers or developers did some Blender integration. I'm not sure how they did it. I think maybe they hooked it to Unity, because there's like ways to bridge stuff from Blender over, and then you could look through and use it to visualize. don't think there was any editing involved. Okay, so the first thing you do is you import the Tiltify plugin. So you go to our website, you download the drivers for the glasses, install them. Then you download the plugin, and then that installs it into your program files, Tiltify SDK Unity plugin. There's also a native plugin. There's an Unreal plugin in here as well. If you're using Godot, you can go to their GitHub and get the Tiltify plugin for that. The plugin supports currently Linux, Windows, and Android, and it's multiplayer on all of those systems. All right, so oh, it's already in the project. So anyway, if it wasn't in your project, it would show up down here in your assets. You go to prefabs, into list view. You pull in the Tiltify prefab. Rotate this around. There's the game board, which we're already familiar with. If you want Mixcast, so I don't need to pull it in again because Mixcast is in here. Just go to mixcast.me website, download their SDK, and you just drag and drop it in. You don't have to do anything else. You just need it in your assets, and now your editing is all Mixcast capable, and your games are going to be Mixcast capable. And you download their control panel type thing to set up Mixcast. This is what Mixcast looks like. I can bring it up real quick just to show. It's this little guy here, and I have it all directed to OBS right now. And there's another screen when you actually launch your game that shows the composited video. And then inside Mixcast, set that up. There's physical devices, which are all the webcams hooked to your system. So you choose the various webcams, resolution, and whatnot. It's all free to use if you don't mind a watermark. If you want higher resolutions and some other bells and whistles, you can pay them some, fee to unlock those. And then once you have a physical device chosen, you calibrate to the game board. So right now I have this webcam off over here. Okay, calibrate, finds the game board. Then there's a bunch of different stuff you can do in here. You can do various cropping things and chroma key. You can do, different types of segmenting. Like right now it's doing some segmenting. If I put my hand in here, I'll try to chop my hand out or the game out so you can see my hand better. And then you set up virtual cameras. And in here you can set up virtual cameras associated with different physical devices. So if you want to be doing live streaming, and I probably should do this, is have a couple different cameras from like a high angle and a low angle and whatnot. You can click through them and, on the fly show different angles. And so that's Mixcast. See ya, Corey. Okay. So we should be set. This will render right now. It's not going to render anything exciting. Oh, yeah, the thing I mentioned this before. I hate skyboxes on the camera. So I like solid color, especially when you're doing Mixcast. And some transparent. Oh, messed it up. Transparency and black. That looks the best for Mixcast because you can put your hands into the scene. Sam says thanks for thinking of using Tiltify for 3D FEM simulations for scientific and educational purposes. I don't know what FEM is. That the protein folding stuff? It's in the works right now. I might have a copy of it on the computer here. It's neat. It's like, I load the files and it's all these ribbons and it's really pretty. if I have it here. If you want to hang out for a few minutes, I'm going to try to do this, do a really fast scene transition. We're going to try to use ChatGPT to do it fast. Finite element modeling, I should have known that. Okay, so what I want is create a script that changes scenes user defined, a developer defined scene when the space bar is pressed. Keep it simple. You can actually take ChatGPT and take all our public functions and just feed it into a chat and teach it how to use Tilt 5, and then you can tell it, like, when you press 1 on the Tilt 5 wand, it'll just do it. Because ChatGPT is from data trainings from 2021. It was before all of our SDK public functions were defined very well. It tries if you don't teach it. But in this case, I don't want to go through all that training. I'll just go change the code. Space bar is pressed. How do I describe it? I think it's called serializable, but I don't want to prompt it to do that because I'm not 100% sure. I need a script to remain present from the current scene present in the next scene from the current scene and all of its variables to remain unchanged. Okay, let's see what it does. You can accomplish your requirement by using Unity's Scene Manager to change the scene, and do not destroy on load to keep the script present in the next scene when its variables are unchanged. Here's the script. So, scene switcher script, string, next scene name, that's fun. It's making a bool that we can pass. Make sure this game object is not destroyed when loading a new scene. This is a little bit different strategy. I think I did it a different way before, but this seems cool. And next scene. Okay. Let's copy that code, go over here. I'm gonna make an empty game object. Scene changer. Add a new script. Oh shoot, was it called scene changer? Scene switcher. So when I cut and paste, I have to call it the right thing so that it matches the name of the mono behavior. Scene switcher. While I wait for this to load, time for a shameless plug. Tilt 5 is on sale right now. So you can go to tilt5.com, get a system, start making your own games, or play some games, or look at some CAD viewers, or play with the CAD viewer, all kinds of stuff. It's $5.99 for a 2-player, and then it's like $100 off for a 3-player option. It comes with the big game board. You can also get the smaller game board too at the same time. All right, paste this in. No syntax errors. So what I'll probably do, I'll probably expand on this under game logic control. So when you like complete the wave, the first wave or something, and then we'll have another scene, we'll create some scenes that have some different stuff in it, and it'll just keep moving forward. You know, the reason I'm making this script is I want to, in this launcher scene, I want to know how many players are going to be in the game actually playing and what their wand ID and glasses ID are, so I can get them hooked up correctly in the scene, player 1, 2, or 3. Meanwhile, if someone doesn't want to play, they can still spectate. So being able to pass which are the active playing players is going to be useful. And this is also going to be useful transitioning from one scene to another, you know, taking points along, because I don't think there's any points being tracked right now. There's definitely hit points being tracked, so we need to progress that forward too. So there's a bunch of data that needs to be progressed forward. Not another dev asks, do the glasses fit under, or do glasses fit under the other glasses? Yes, it does. So there's a couple things you can do. So there's a lot of eye relief here. So most glasses fit right under here. Some people have issues with the nose piece that pops out colliding with their glasses nose pieces. We do intend eventually to have a bunch of different nose pieces that will be tossed in the box, but that may not happen for a while. It's really takes a long time to bring up production on that. And what some folks have done is they've kind of trimmed these little horns off a little bit on here, so you just cut it off and it clears your glasses. And then other folks that have really shallow nose, there's these off-the-shelf like nose pads you can get for glasses, and people just stick those in there that elevate the glasses a little bit. Sorry, it's a little bit of a DIY project sometimes if your glasses are getting in the way, but okay, let's see if this works. Someone in the chat's saying, I'm planning to use Tilt 5 as a teaching tool in middle schools, as a learning coding game would be cool too. I love that idea. What's cool about our system is because we emit this flat wavefront. It's mostly IPD independent, so kids have a little bit narrower IPD. Although we are adding a little function in the control panel where you can set it a little narrower, like if the 3D looks a little too exaggerated for younger eyes. It'd be really cool to have something that's kind of like Scratch, where you use the wand to just kind of drag and drop, you know, logical elements on there and connect them together, and then you see your character moving around, or maybe even drag and drop onto the character. You know, make your little kind of Scratch-like things and then drop the game logic. Logo comes to mind, like 3D logo. That's what we were taught in school back in the day, and I loved it a lot. It was really fun. It was kind of programming light, and you could imagine doing a lot of fun stuff with a logo-like program. It'd be pretty trivial to code up, I would imagine. Okay, we were going to see if this works. I think it was called example, wasn't it? The next scene. I think I can see it here. build settings. It's called example. And let's set that bool and see if it shows up in the next scene. Ooh, we have nothing in the scene. Isn't that great? Okay. Awesome, awesome. Scene changer's there, and it still has the bool set. Awesome. This is going to be perfect. We can modify this for all the scene changing we need to do from the home screen all the way through every level that we decide to add to it. Cool. I think that's probably a good place to stop for today. I think that kind of gives us the bones to have kind of a little bit of an onboarding experience for people joining the game and getting into the game. So I think next time, and I don't know when I can do this, maybe I'll have to set up at work a little streaming rig there so I can do this more frequently. But I think what we'll want to do is we'll want to add the board rotate script. So it's a script that you can find on our website where, depending on where you are around the game board, it'll auto snap the board. That'll be convenient for when you want people sitting at any random angle around. And then we'll start building up the a kind of primitive intro scene that we can start up to 4 players. And then we will work towards being able to load subsequent screens after we achieve our goal of killing all the zombies. Oh, Brian, sorry you just showed up. You can always scroll back and watch. Reverse Fulfillment says, have you guys heard of Zachtronics? Sort of machine building logic game. He's out of Seattle. Some of those games would fit really well. Let's take a look. Ooh, some of these look awesome. Mild sexual themes in a robot sim. Well, thanks, Brian, for stopping in. Yeah, these look awesome. I assume this is kind of a smaller indie studio. This guy's a monster if it's just a single person doing all of these. I wonder if there's any details. Free games for schools. Oh, that's cool. Brian says, would love to build some little multiplayer protos. I had a great time trying things out at the last couple GDCs. Hey, Brian, if you haven't bought a system yet, I'm shamelessly promoting, it's on sale. We just turned 6 years old, and so we're running a sale for a handful of weeks. It's a good time to get a 2 or a 3 player set. And we finally figured out how to manufacture these consistently enough that we can just ship them out. You can probably get your system within a day or 2. All right, I'm starving. I need to get out of here and eat some food. So thanks everyone for dropping in. I'm gonna kill the stream. See you guys later.